И снова здравствуйте, мои уважаемые зрители.
Hello again, my dear viewers. April 14th is in our yard, and today's issue of mine is dedicated to the events on the Ukrainian fronts. I'll start by highlighting two major events that happened today. More precisely, one thing happened the night before last night. Missile cruiser Moscow, this is the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet. Either he was attacked, or he ran into a mine, or some kind of fire broke out inside, as a result of which they wondered all night what had happened, and how it would all end. Somewhere only by lunchtime it became clear, primarily thanks to the American partners, who specifically reported at the briefing answering this question, that the cruiser Moskva was damaged, and was moving towards Sevastopol, under its own power. He did not drown, as Ukrainian propagandists happily reported the day before. He goes on his own. Moreover, the news that a lot really happened to the cruiser, but first of all, I still considered the version, either spontaneous combustion on board the ship, or a mine. Because literally everything is thrown there by mines. Again, there was a storm and it could well be that the cruiser ran into a mine. Anti-ship missile system, which the Ukrainian media wrote about, has not yet been confirmed. In fact, when the ship arrives at the port, and already clearly obvious damage is visible, it will be possible to determine what happened by their nature. If it was a mine, then the ship's surface settings, sides, other damage, there may be some kind of cinder. If there really was a flame breaking out, and if it was a rocket, then it will immediately be seen from the torn-up superstructures, or from the broken board, and so, this question is clear. We postpone it until the next time. The next important event that took place today was another shelling of Russian territory by Ukrainian helicopters. The workers' settlement of Klimovo, located about 10 kilometers from the state border. And yet, settlements in the Belgorod region were shelled today. It is already obvious that the Ukrainian armed forces are trying with all their might to attract as many Russian armed forces as possible to this direction in order to tie them down here and prevent them from taking part in the general battle in the Donbas, which will unfold in just a few days. And here I also want to immediately reassure the residents of the Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod regions. I constantly read in the comments your requests to explain what is really happening. I've been explaining for 5 days now what's going on and what to expect. So far, what is happening generally confirms this forecast. The armed forces of Ukraine cannot carry out any serious offensive operations in these areas. The only thing they can do is to terrorize the border area, to strike. Again, helicopters attacked today. They ask the question, why weren't they shot down? Yes, in principle, they could attack, literally just entering the territory of the Russian Federation, launch missiles, and go back to their territory. And helicopters can go literally above the ground itself, and they are simply on the territory controlled by Ukraine, where there are no Russian radars, or there is no early warning aircraft in the air. They are invisible. It is precisely this that caused such blows, and, unfortunately, it will not be possible to avoid these three regions for the population. Deep down, there are already problems. It is for this reason that I have been saying for 5 days now that residents of the border strip, up to 10 to 15 kilometers wide, may have problems, and we see that these problems exist precisely in this band, and so we also dealt with this issue. Now let's go to the front. What is going on there today? The Russian group south of Izium is expanding its foothold and is gradually moving towards Slavyansk and Barbankovo. And in Barbankovo, today there was an evacuation. At 14:00 the city was evacuated. That is, representatives of the Kiev regime obviously realize that in the coming days a battle will begin here in Barvinkovo. Also, in the last 2 days, the artillery of the Lugansk People's Republic and the Russian military space forces have been delivering very powerful strikes in the area of the city of Popasnaya, where for a month now the People's Militia of the Luhansk People's Republic has been trying to break through the defenses of the Ukrainian army. Moreover, a significant part of the populated area Popasnaya has already been taken. Nevertheless, the defense has not been completely broken through and the Russian military space forces have been delivering very powerful strikes in this area for 2 days. That is, it is obvious that during the general offensive, one of the auxiliary strikes will be delivered here. And also in the Horlivka region, where attacks also continue on the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine, and in the Avdiivka region, which has also been under intense artillery fire for the past 2 or 3 days. It is from here that an auxiliary strike on Pokrovsk can be delivered. Well, the main blow from the south should also take place somewhere between Guliapol and Kurakhovo. In general, I have repeatedly spoken about how events can develop. In general, we are waiting. I think it will not be long to wait. Well, also briefly what is happening in the Kherson region. Here, too, there is nothing left of the fighting enthusiasm of Governor Kim. Along the entire front line of the Kherson region, Ukrainian troops went on the defensive. Russian troops are slowly pushing them closer to Nikolaev. Today in Nikolaev, one of the main jokes is that Governor Kim attacked so much that today he is forced to dig trenches already in the city center. Indeed, the city is being heavily fortified. Also in Kramatorsk, as in Nikolaev, defensive fortifications are being dug, and it is obvious that the Kiev regime is preparing for the fact that the Russian armed forces will storm the city. Well, at the very end, 2 words about Mariupol. And also about one very interesting event that happened today to the Verkhovna Rada, as reported by Leshenko Goncharenko. He said that the Verkhovna Rada today adopted a law according to which foreign citizens can serve in the armed forces of Ukraine and in intelligence agencies. It is clear that this law was not adopted by chance right now. Because right now, mass surrender began, including foreign mercenaries in Mariupol. Therefore, the Kiev regime is doing everything in its power to ensure that these people are not tried for mercenarism, like criminals, before the Donetsk People's Republic. And Mariupol, after all, is part of the Donetsk People's Republic, and they were treated like military personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine. Although I think that it is more correct to condemn them as mercenaries, which they essentially are. That's about what I wanted to say in this issue. That's all for now. Goodbye, and see you tomorrow.
На этом пока все. До свидания и до завтра.